Welcome to the podcast. I hope you are having a great day. I hope your week is going great. I hope everything is going well in these crazy times. Just put your phones down every once in a while, right? Don't read the news. Don't watch the nonsense going on, the crazy political turmoil, no matter what side you're on, by the way, don't matter. Everything's going crazy. I mean, you think the world is going to end if you keep watching the news and reading all this crap. Stay positive. If you're tuning into me, you know my motto. Try to stay as positive as you can. Make the most out of every day. If you've got issues where you feel depressed or down, or you get caught up in stuff, don't put yourself in a situation where you can get caught up in it. The easiest place to get caught up in that crap is social media. Although, I rely on social media heavily for followers and for subscribers and stuff like that, I don't make it my everything. There's certain people I follow, certain people I watch. Those are people I like. I don't read anything else. I don't accept friend requests from anybody unless I know them. And my followers know that my page is not political. I don't want to get political. I have in the past, and it's bitten me in the ass. So the idea really is to have the best life possible. That's it. That's what you got to do. You get one time through this crazy life, one time. And that's it. It's whatever you make of it. So if you make of it being miserable and unhappy and worried and concerned and all these things without the ability to change it, you're screwed. Anyway, this is not about that. This is not a self-help workshop or podcast or anything like that. This is a podcast about dogs. Dogs, because we love dogs. That's where you're tuned in. If you're not a member of my site, robertcabral.com, please run over there. Check out the great member section, the great dog training lessons. Check out my YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit the bell. Make sure you know of all the new videos coming up. There's several new videos being updated every single week. There's always something there for you, always something to make your life with your dog better. Today's podcast, I want to address a viewer's question, Doug in Virginia, who's a very prominent follower of my site. You might notice his comments on my page a lot. He asked a question, and I think he knows the answer to it, but he asked my opinion. Why do I think people don't ever complete a single training class with their dogs? And the question is interesting, and in a short answer, I can tell you it is because people don't have follow through, or people don't think they need it. I'm going to really address that in today's podcast because training is so important in my life. Those of you who know me know I come from a strong martial art background. I taught martial arts for a long time, had a school here in Los Angeles for 10 plus years. I love a physical and mental fitness. I think it's so important. It saved me in so many ways from depression, from hardships, from physically being harmed, and all these things. And it's just so important. So I've got this sort of discipline in my head that's guided my whole life, that I've used in everything, in every business situation, every relationship, in every friendship, in everything I've ever tried, attempted. And it makes me really understand that if I'm not good at something, I don't want to do it. So I strive to be extremely good at it. And I come from that school where if you're not good at, there's a lot of things you're not good at, right? Everybody says, well, everybody's good at something. That might be true. And that one thing you might be good at might not be something you find out, right? You hear all these lies from people. I took singing lessons for years. I'll give you a great example. And certain people said, oh, you're a great singer. But that's not true. I can't sing. I suck at singing. I tried to learn to play the guitar. Guitar you can kind of learn to play. You'll never be a virtuoso if it's not in you, right? You can learn, but you're never going to be at that level. And that's what people don't tell their kids nowadays, that you might not make it, right? You might not be good at what you're trying. You might not be a great soccer player, a great tennis player, a great athlete. You might not be a great student. But you have to search for what you're good at and what you enjoy. Really learn to enjoy it, and don't always make what you enjoy your life goal, because, and I mean that in the sense of a job. Like, let's say you really enjoy playing the guitar. You might need to work at Costco to support your passion for playing the guitar. You might never end up in a band or on the radio or anything like that. So it's important to be honest with yourself. And that honesty is something that I always carry through in dog training. People always say, can my so-and-so dog be like your Goofy? And the answer is no, right? It's just no. That's as simple as that. Because I know that my Goofy can't be as good as a world champion IPO Mondio Ring French Ring dog. I know that, but I love him for what he can do. And that's really critical to understand. Just because you'll never be, Arnold Schwarzenegger or any great bodybuilder, do what you love and do it to the degree you can do it. But don't convince yourself to get up on the Mr. Olympia stage. Ain't gonna happen. My friend Mike O'Hearn, great example, is an incredible bodybuilder. I was on his podcast a while ago. I'm gonna try to get him on this podcast here. But he's got such a strong drive and also incredible genetics. Let's not lie. But he harnessed those genetics. Now, I look at Mike, there's no way in the world I'll ever look like him, but I look pretty good, I would say. For 55, I look really good, but I work out hard, I stay with it. Yes, I'm blessed with good, decent genetics. Mike has great genetics. I'm blessed with a good drive and good common sense of picking up what I want to do and how I want to do it and how I want to follow through it. I study things, I really get them into my head. Now, when it comes to dog training, it's something that came very naturally to me. My friend Mike was training his Doberman. I worked with him a little bit. I read books by Keeler. I read, the Karen Pryor books. I read all the books. I tried to get as much information as I can. Were any of these people inspirational to me? Not really, because I didn't really like what was going on. My inspiration was people who I would see doing things that weren't really famous, that had a really nice relationship with their dogs. Those were the people that inspired me, that made me want to train a dog and made me want to become something that I really hadn't seen, right? I mean, you look at somebody like Caesar, who's doing his thing, and it's really just that, it's his thing. People always ask me what I think of Caesar, and to be honest with you, he does his thing. I don't dislike Caesar. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he's bad with dogs or abusive with dogs. I would say that from what I've seen. I've never seen him in person, but I also don't look to him as a real trainer. I look at him more as a behavior type person who addresses behaviors in dogs and works it. A trainer is somebody who takes a dog and conditions and creates behaviors and titles their dogs and does all these things. That to me is a trainer. So I don't need any comments on the video or the podcast where I don't think he's a trainer, because that's what I'm defining as a trainer, right? A personal fitness trainer is somebody who gets somebody in shape and does that. It's not somebody who says, don't eat the hamburger because it's going to make you fat. That's not a trainer. That's kind of like an advocate for good behavior. And that's kind of what I see Caesar as. But anyway, there wasn't anybody really doing what I do now. I mean, now there's a lot of people. I mean, I see so many online dog trainers, and some do good stuff, some don't. I'm not here to criticize them. But dog training, I want to really talk about it. Why don't people ever take a dog training class? Now we see more people doing online training. We've got a lot of members on my membership section, and I see a lot of people really interested in this. And perhaps, I didn't even put this on my list, I've got a couple of reasons why. Maybe because nobody's ever made it attainable, right? Maybe nobody's ever made dog training really attainable. Like if you got a dog, wherever you got your dog, you went to the shelter and got your dog, and you live in a certain area of the country, there's no real training classes. I mean, I can't really tell you that many training classes in the Los Angeles area. And this really is the mecca for dog training. There's more dog activities around here than anywhere I've seen. Right now, if you want to do agility, you can do agility. You want to do competitive obedience, you can do that. But there's no real classes. I mean, there's every once in a while something will pop up at a church parking lot and they'll do something, or they'll do this, or they'll do that. But the online forum, I think, has changed that. I think, my site and a couple other sites that really offer decent information that you can kind of comprehend, put together, and then apply are becoming more prevalent. There's a few of them out there. I'm not the only one. But that is something that people need to get used to. Now, it's also hard for a lot of people, and Janet really pointed this out to me, to watch something and then apply it and understand when they're making a mistake. That's why what I've been doing more on the website, on the membership section, is to do a session with a client, with a member, and then put that on the website. So you'll see the person training the dog, you'll see me training the dog afterwards, and then you'll see the mistakes they make. And it's usually in communication, in timing, and in watching their dog. Like they're not watching the mistakes. They're kind of at some point tuning out. So that tuning out happens a lot because people are not that in tune with what they're doing. People who are in tune are always going to be martial artists, right? Fighters, boxers, MMA. If you watch MMA, which I'm not a great big fan of it, but I love it for, when I see it in its truest form, I like it. I mean, it's totally strategic. You'll see that they're waiting for 1 inch, a tiny opening, and they can get in and get the choke or get the pin or get the submission. But it takes that eye. In other words, they're not just tuning out and waiting, they're watching. They're vigilantly watching every single move that the opponent does. And the timing is imperative. And it's the exact same thing in dog training, right? You're watching your dog, you're looking for an opening, you're looking for an opportunity to praise, to condition a behavior, to block or correct a negative behavior. It's just like martial arts. It's just like MMA. It's just like jiu-jitsu and judo and karate and all of those, right? So people don't really have, in a sense now, we've really become lazy, right? Let's face that. So people have gotten so shiftless in things that they get a dog and they think, well, it's a dog. That's just it. It's kind of like getting a chair, that when they want to sit in the chair, they sit in the chair. When they want to talk to the dog, they talk to the dog. When they want to walk the dog, they walk the dog. When they want to train the dog, they train it. And then in the meantime, they expect the dog to know what they want the dog to know. They think it's almost ethereal that the dog is going to know what you want them to know just because you say it is so, right? You just think because you said it, the dog should know what that means. First of all, there's a cross-species language communication gap that works very, very simply. That means if you don't teach them what that means, the dog doesn't know. And if the dog doesn't know, the dog can't do what you want him to do. It's that simple. They just can't do it. So you need to do 2 things. One is you need to cross-species communicate and bridge that gap and start to teach the dog what a certain sound means when you enunciate or when you spew out that sound from your mouth. Now, second of all, you also need to condition the dog to understand in muscle memory what that sound then leads their body to do, right? That you're shaping the down, that the head goes down, the shoulders go down, the butt goes down, that's a down. When I say down, that's the series of events that needs to happen for you to make me happy, to complete that action. And dogs generally, and I say generally, want to make us happy. They want to please us. That's how we've bred them. If I look at Dwayne, he just sits there and looks at me and looks at me and looks at me and wants to make me happy. Goofy the same way. Maya the same way. But remember, people oftentimes don't know how to do these things because in a class, a good teacher, even an average teacher, would be able to communicate some of the most basic things. Now, trainers nowadays get so lost in PC theory, which is, well, we can't correct the dog, we can't be harsh on the dog, we can't do this, we can't. Everybody's all into what they can't do, right? Not focusing on what they can do. If you have to give a dog a correction, you have to give a dog a correction. If people don't like it, if people are radical, and if the people, animal rights people, get nutty about it and say it's abusive because you've given your dog a correction, then deal with it later, right? But give your dog the information they need to succeed. So, people also don't know how important it is to train your dog. They just don't. They think it's just something, it's a waste of time. They can do it. They can figure it out, but they can't, right? Most people who have an easy time training a dog and communicating with a dog are people who are very structured, military people and people who are very in good shape, business people, athletes. Those are people who have the mental and physical discipline to do something for themselves. Therefore, they can transfer that onto someone else or another being, which is like a dog. They have confidence. They understand communication. That's critical. Without that, you cannot do that. Now, if you have that ability, then you must also understand how important it is for your dog to listen to you. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They don't grasp the concept how important it is for your dog to understand what you want out of them, right? They don't understand how important it is that your dog understand what you're saying and that the dog must complete it on the first try. Until their dog is running out the door, going across the street, and they say, no, come back, stop, down, here, whatever will come, whatever their word is, and the dog doesn't listen. They don't understand the importance of it because they don't think ahead, right? They don't think ahead. They don't think, well, we've got to do something here in order to have a communication with the dog, because they don't ever think anything is going to go wrong. And they don't mind having a very broken relationship with the dog. Communicating with your dog and getting your dog to understand what you want and for them to understand it on the first go around is critical. It's absolutely imperative because it will save your dog's life. At some point it will save their life. And if you don't understand that, then you're missing half the boat. You're not giving your dog a fair chance. Every person and every dog should complete a couple of classes, just some basic obedience. How to get your dog to do something, the proper luring and shaping to it, the proper corrections, the proper communication with your dog, and how to set up for the proper relationship. Those are really simple, basic things. And it's not natural, right? When a woman gets pregnant and has a baby, for the most part, in the woman's DNA is this ability to figure out how to be a mother. Right? It's just in the DNA. Just like a lion mother knows how to be a mother to a lion because it's in their DNA. It's what it's just a very natural thing. Men can't figure it out. Right? Men can't figure out a lot of things. That's part of the problem. But they think they can. So when you look at the problem, people don't think they need to do the training class because they think they can figure it out, but they can't. They need some basic help. Like I said, the online courses are a great avenue. It gives you a lot of information, and you can watch the videos on your phone and see what you're doing with your dog, and then you can videotape yourself doing it and then watch both videos side by side. Technology is so far advanced. I remember back in the day I was learning magic, and one of the things everybody was trying to do was videotape themselves. But before videotapes, we would have a mirror and watch ourselves doing magic. A sleight of hand. I'm not saying big magic like pulling women out of, coffins and stuff like that, or boxes. So you have this amazing ability now. You can set your phone in front of you, record yourself doing something, watch me doing it on the members section or the YouTube videos, and then compare it and say, okay, there's a difference. And you need to be open enough. If you were raised by a parent who says everything you do is perfect, you won't be able to see it. It just ain't going to happen because you have been lied to. Right? You need to know when you're not getting it. Like you, Robert Cabral, can't sing. Your voice sounds horrible. And my mother told me that. And I was mad at her when she told me, but in a sense, she saved me from going on American Idol and being put down by Simon Cowell, who I like. And the reason I like him is because he's honest. So people don't realize what the importance of training their dog is usually until it's too late. And at that time, the dog is not listening, is jumping on people, is running out the door, is attacking other dogs, is attacking other animals, and is getting in trouble. And then they want to train the dog because they want to save the dog because their ego's involved now. And I've always said, if a dog is let down by the owner, and the dog is then put in a shelter, and somebody else adopts that dog in hopes of saving it, and they can't save it, the burden and the guilt is not on that person who tried to save that dog, but it's on the moron who dropped the dog off and gave up on it. And those are hard words to hear, right? But if you give up on a dog, if you get a dog as a puppy, and the exception to the rule is maybe 0.1% of dogs that are born bad, that are just off genetically, those dogs need to be put down because they can't make it. There's something inherently wrong. Maybe there's some people who are born that evil or that bad. I don't know. I don't know anything about medical stuff, and I don't propose to know it. But if they are, they should be put down. Hitler, Charles Manson, these nutty, crazy psychopaths, serial killers. If there was a test, you could see that was how they're going to end up, then well, with puppies, you can see if a puppy's going to be really aggressive. Breeders can see if there's something with bad breeding and stuff like that. Easy decision. But most dogs that are given up in the shelter, most dogs that are going to be put down because of bad behavior, are dogs that were screwed up by people. They didn't socialize them, they didn't train them, they didn't get them out, they didn't work with them or anything. They got a breed they shouldn't have gotten, which happens a lot. I talk about that. And then they don't give the dog the structure that the dog needs, or they give the dog bad information, and they end up with a dangerous dog, and they dump the dog in the shelter. So they try to do what they want to do as opposed to doing what the dog needs. They want to feel good about it. They want to kind of make the dog tough, and when the little puppy's growling, they do this, they do that, and that's it. So the other reason people don't train their dogs is because they don't care. Right? They don't care about themselves, they don't eat right, they don't exercise, they don't use caution in the words they use, right? That's a huge, huge piece. Emotionally, how we say things, how we attack others, which we see so much politically now, that's really dysfunctional. And it's not only dysfunctional to the person you're talking to, but it's dysfunctional to you as the person uttering these negative things, right? A sound, they know, there's studies that show that frequency and sound and words are powerful, more powerful than you think. That's why if you say stupid things to your dog or stupid things to your partner, your husband, your wife, your children, you're creating a very negative relationship, and everything when it comes out of your lips. I used to say that the tongue is the most powerful organ we have because it's guarded by two gates, the teeth and the lips. And when you open those two gates, they're there to protect you from saying something stupid. Because saying something stupid, in some religious beliefs, saying something bad is equivalent to murder. Some consider it worse because it kills not only the person that you're saying it about, but it kills you and the person you're saying it to if it's about a third person. So the way people treat themselves, treat others, and treat their animals is really indicative of what their character is. I watched Janet train Dwayne and Jimmy, and I just look at it, and she's just on. She's just positive and happy. And even when the dog makes mistakes, she'll correct now. I've seen her correct the dogs. But for the most part, her spirit, even in correcting, never gets personal. And that's very hard to find. Even I get personal sometimes with a dog, especially when I'm dealing with serious aggression, it's much more personal. But she's not really dealing with that with Dwayne. But I admire the way she does it. She's really great at it. It's refreshing for me to see, and she's so dedicated. She trains more. Now I've got Goofy and Maya, they're both 10 years old, so it's not really that time to train. When I get my puppy, it will be, but it's inspirational. And Janet's done a lot of training classes. She's done it. I haven't really done any, right? I've taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of training classes, but I don't really find that many classes that I want to attend. I've done some. I actually have thought about it. I've done some. I went to some seminars. People who don't train their dogs are often also very, very lazy. Right? Let's just face it. If you don't interact with your dog, if you don't train your dog, if you don't give your dog the information they need, you're just lazy. And that laziness is contagious because your dog is going to become lazy and not want to communicate with you. Your dog is not going to have the benefits of training, of understanding communication, of being the good dog that they have the potential of being. So there's a host of reasons why people don't train their dogs. They're all pathetic. Right? So I'm telling you now, get off your ass and train your dog. Join an online website that trains dogs, because of this. Now I think everything's still, I don't know, maybe everything's still locked down, maybe it's not locked down anymore. You can't even do a training class. It's insane. But you've got to train your dog, right? Think about your dog like a car. You buy a car, you need to change the oil, you need to tune it up. You can't just drive it and drive it. And at the very least, you need to put gas in it. Those are some responsibilities. And you should check the air of the tires, which most people don't do. I don't know why. When I was young, my stepdad taught me check the air in the tires, check your oil, check your radiator, make sure it has fluid. Because if you don't, you're an idiot, right? Because your car is going to be, it's going to break. It's going to break down. But you check those things. You expect a pilot to make sure there's enough fuel and that the landing gear works and all that. You should check that with your car. So with your dog, you need to check that with your dog. You need to check your dog should go to a veterinarian once a year and get a checkup. Your dog should eat a good diet. Your dog should have clean water. Your dog should be trained. These are imperative things. If you have a dog, that's what you need to do. I wish less people had dogs because I think I think a lot of people are not good dog owners. I think most people, I'm going to clarify, most people are good dog owners, but a lot aren't. So you do the math on that. But, get off your ass, train your dog, do an online course, go to a pet store and see if they're having an in-person course, even just to go 2 or 3 times to socialize your dog. Find a dog training club in your neighborhood. Find something that can give you the information that you need to communicate more richly, more deeply, and more intimately with your dog. And I think you'll have a better relationship with your dog. So that being said, again, I'm going to give a shameless plug. Check my website, robertcabral.com. Lots of great dog training lessons there. The podcast, please subscribe to the podcast on any format where it's available. Make sure you share the message too so that other people will know the importance of training your dogs. Now, let's take some questions. So the first one goes out to Dale. I'm not going to mention his last name, and you're going to see why. Dale writes, dude. I don't know Dale. Dale just calls me dude. I will never crate my dog. I have had dogs for over 20 years. Granted, my dogs don't do fancy tricks like yours, but they listen when called. Maybe I should crate your ass to improve your personal character. Now, I get a lot of messages like this from people like Dale because it's easy to send a message through a keyboard, right? We call them keyboard quarterbacks. It's the same people, let's use that term, who watch a football game and yell at a professional athlete who is a super athlete on how they should carry the ball, how they should pass the ball, and how they should run. Some out of shape, fat guy sitting in a lazy boy chair, drinking a beer and eating Doritos, telling a professional athlete how to do his job. Now, Dale, it's easy for you to type some letters on a keyboard, which you misspell some things, but I know why you misspell them, I get it. And I admire the fact that you say that my dogs do fancy tricks and your dogs don't, and your dogs listen, which is fantastic. But I always think it's so petty that people have to say that you're going to put me in a crate. I don't know why you feel compelled to put me in a crate, because you think my personal character is lacking. My personal character is not lacking anything. I've got a great personal character. But obviously your personal character is lacking because you decide to lash out to somebody who's just trying to help other dogs. So if you're going to send messages like this, just save your energy. Just go do something. Go do something, whatever it is. Because crate training is actually very good for dogs. And a lot of people helps their dogs a lot. Sabine says, my German Shepherd is not food motivated at all. Any suggestions? Sabine, your dog is food motivated because your dog eats. You give your dog too much food. You need to cut back on the food you give your dog, and you need to make your dog work for every single and solitary morsel. End of discussion. Matilde says, I couldn't agree more, Robert. People tend to love their dogs sometimes even more than their kids. Now, they never thought twice when they had to correct their children in order to become wonderful adults. Why do they have such a hard time to correct their dogs to become wonderful members of the family? I'll disagree with you, because most people don't correct their children, and that's why they don't correct their dogs. This is a new thing for people. They think, well, I don't need to correct my child because I don't want my child to hear no. It's very negative. It's very scarring. It's detrimental to the growth and the mental stability of my child. And that's why they don't correct their dogs. One has nothing to do with the other, right? Because when you say they correct their children, they don't. If they corrected their children, I believe they correct their dogs. Kayron says, any tips on introducing a dog to other animals, cats and rabbits, or do you think it's just best not to? It's a tough one. So I'll tell you this is, If you're going to introduce your dog to another animal, let's say hopefully you have your cat or your rabbit first. Then when you bring your dog and you put the dog in a crate and let them see the other animals and let them see the freedom and the structure, and when they have curbed their drive, when they've taken their drive down, they're not hyper and crazy and focused and super excited by it, then we start taking the dog out on a leash and giving the dog corrections and rewards for doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And if you can't do that, don't do it. And don't get a really high drive dog like some kind of a molliser or a herding dog and introduce them and then have them and then bring a rabbit in, because it's going to be a dead rabbit. That's it. Isaac says, every time I tried to give my dog the cue to stand with my foot, he growled and tried to bite me. What should I do? Well, your dog is obviously not socialized to things, because your dog should never try to bite you. Your dog is not conditioned. It hasn't been properly conditioned to a foot being close to him. And if that's the case, I don't know if it's a rescue dog or how long you've had the dog or anything like that, but I would make sure my dog knows before I use the foot for the marking of the stand, which I've shown in my videos. I would make sure the dog knows that the foot is a good thing, right? He shouldn't be thinking that you're trying to kick him, because if he thinks that he's going to bite, especially if he's not really socialized with you. So condition your dog to understanding the right behaviors and the right thing to do, and your dog will do the right things. If it's a rescue dog, you don't know where the dog came from, and then you're trying to do it, you need to condition the dog to the behavior before you apply the technique, because you're going to get bit. Not a good thing. Al says, hi there, Mr. Cabral. I enjoy your videos very much. It's been a long time since I had a dog. I just don't have the required resources. I used to have German Shepherds and learned from a policeman how to train them. I was told then, many years ago, not in the USA, that the dog always has to be led on the left. I noticed, watching various videos of various instructors, that this rule is not adhered to. Is there a general rule that promotes which side the dog is on? Well, any trainer worth their weight will put a dog on their left side. It's been a tradition for 100 years, or maybe a little bit lower, probably about 100 years. They say it came from the idea because the gun was carried on the right side and the dog would be kept on the left. I know that's why they do it with hunting dogs. And that's just the way. People always say, well, I'm left-handed, or I'm right-handed, I got to put the dog on the right. No, you don't. Doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed, your dog goes on your left. Because I'll tell you something, it doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. In America, you drive on the right side of the street. That's it. It doesn't matter if you're left-handed. You can't say, I'm left-handed, I'm going to drive on the left side of the street. That's idiotic. You have to follow a basic protocol. And the protocol with dogs is we walk them on our left, which makes it very easy that dogs know where to go. Dogs know where to go if somebody else is handling them. And we know where a person's dog is going to be if we're trying to pass by them. Follow the etiquette. That's the way it's been. That's the way it should be. Now, you can train your dog to walk on the left or the right. That's kind of fancy and really cool. But the default of the dog should be walking on your left. Golden Wolf says, what is hand targeting used for? And hand targeting is used for a couple different things. One is it's used to get your dog to check in with you, pay attention to you, to touch you, because if they hand target, they have to go look away from where they're looking. It can also then be transferred onto other targets, right? So in other words, you can put a Post-it on your hand, then put the Post-it note on a light switch and teach the dog to turn the light switch on and off. Last question here goes out to Stelky39, I think. Hi, I have just a random question. If I want to teach my dog to stay, should I use a word like stay for him to know to stay? Or should I just use the word and just let him know that sit also means stay? So it's a great question, right? It depends. And it depends if you're going to do obedience with your dog, like competitive style obedience with your dog in any, maybe ring sport or Schutzhund or AKC or anything, you can't use a second word. You have to get the dog to listen to one word, or it can be their excuse me, their name in the command, but you must use just the command. You can't say sit, stay. Can't do it. You got to say sit. Now remember, when you add the word stay, you're giving your dog the opportunity to break two commands. So if I tell my dog to sit and I walk away and he's not sitting, he's breaking the sit. If I say sit, stay, and I walk away, and the dog breaks, he's breaking two commands. The bottom line is, if you give your dog a command, the dog is compelled to obey that command until either another command is given, like let's say a down or a stand, or until the dog is released. It's as simple as that. I got a drink of water. You must understand that is a component of obedience. So that should make that a little simpler. But if you're just doing pet dog training and you're just training your dog to sit and stay, who cares? Doesn't matter at all. Doesn't make any difference at all. So those are the questions. Again, check my website, robertcabral.com. Tons of great dog training lessons, podcasts, video podcasts. There's every week on my member section, 2 times we do Q&As for members. The YouTube channel full of information. Follow me on social media. And check my shop for all the products I use and all the food and product and treats I recommend. Thanks for tuning in. Give your dog a big hug, and I'll see you next time.